Welcome to WKIM. We keep it moving with Marcia Jews. Hope you all are doing well and you had a great weekend. We are so excited. We have a full schedule today. Our first guest is Susan Smallwood, who is the founder and CEO of Grandiosity Events and La Grande Caviar. We are very excited because Susan has been hosting luxury events and experiences and galas in private jet hangars and the New Zealand Embassy, Mercedes-Benz dealerships, Tiffany and Company, BWI, cigars and guitars with polo and jazz, Super Bowl kickoffs with notable television and sports figures from this year. Coming up with the polo and jazz in September is Carson Kressley, as well as Rona from New York City, Lisa Ray and Terry. So we are very excited to have Susan here, and she's a good friend as well. And I'm just so proud of her because she just said, I'm going to do this, and y'all just going to have to watch. If you don't believe me, just stick around. So welcome, Susan Smallwood. How are you?
Grand greetings, everybody. How's everyone on this beautiful day here in the DMV?
Yes, and I am so excited to have you here because I understand that we have a lot to discuss today.
Yeah, it must be. Okay, fire away.
So, I think what's really interesting is, sometimes we move through life and we have people who are our friends and, we see them and we do what they do and, we catch up when we can, right? But there was a moment where there was an absence in town and I just wasn't seeing you. And a lot of people weren't seeing you and we were trying to figure, well, where's Susan? And then one day you appeared. And I wanted you to share the story of that vacation and what you did.
Baby, God knew what he was doing when he set my butt down. Can I curse on here?
No.
Oh, okay. So, is this live?
Yes.
We're live? Okay.
Yes.
So what happened was
what had happened was
got that knock on the door. It was the DEA.
What's that? What's the DEA?
The Drug Enforcement Agency.
Oh, and why were they knocking on your door?
They were knocking at my door because they were looking for me. And I guess where I was in South Beach hanging out with actor Clifton Powell when they came the first time. What? Y'all know who Clifton Powell is, Pinky.
What?
From Friday.
Yes.
So then they came back. Then they came back on Mother's Day weekend of 2012. And they arrested me and took me to the marshals in Virginia. But I gotta tell y'all this is not funny. The two things. Okay. It's funny. It's funny, but it's not funny.
It's funny
and all
now,
this shit
but
that's
it
happening.
certainly wasn't funny then.
No, it wasn't. But let me tell you, in me getting arrested and handcuffed, I asked the agent, I said, excuse me, I need my lip gloss because I had dry lip syndrome.
No question.
Then we get to the marshal's office. I didn't like the way the picture looked. I said, no, we got to do this again. No, we got to do this again. I mean, I must have did like 4 times.
I know you did.
I said, when I'm sitting in a cell by myself, I said, who else would be thinking about what their fucking, picture looks like?
Yes. But I know who would, because that's important.
So, I
So
mean,
did
anyway,
you,
so that was that was
that
the
was your
trip.
mug shot. That was your mug
That was
shot.
yeah, but at least make sure I look good in my
The
daggone
mug
shop,
was
right?
good. The mug
So
was good.
so that's what. And then what's crazy is they accommodated me. They kept redoing. It was like I was at the passport office. So who's the crazier one? But that's a true story.
Right.
So anyway, so that's so I got booked for conspiracy to distribute cocaine,
Oh.
and
So you were
I
getting high back then?
no, I wasn't getting high then. No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
No, no, that's another part of my life.
Oh,
That's when I
that's
was
another show.
after the army. That was when I was in my 20s and 30s. This was now I'm in my 40s. So I was done with all that, but it was the so it was a, a proposition for me to make some good money,
Mhm.
and I wanted to get a penthouse in New York
Okay.
when I owned a big house
Right.
already, but I just didn't care for. I wasn't happy where I was. I had a big house. I had diamonds, furs, jewelry, nice car, whatever. I wasn't happy. And then I wanted to be in New York in the penthouse and all that stuff. So that one decision cost
Mhm.
me not only my freedom, taken away from my son, my mom, my family, my friends, my uh, lifestyle, and my whole world changed.
Mhm.
But in retrospect, it was meant to happen.
Mhm. You
Because
needed to
had
go
it
through
not,
that.
yeah, it
Mhm.
was meant to happen. Because I was moving too fast, trying to do. I wasn't enjoying the journey. I was so focused on the destination.
Mhm.
I did not understand what it meant to enjoy the journey. If you said that to me back then, I didn't want to hear it. It went in one ear, not the other. So now I enjoy the journey. My hustle, grind, grit, whatever you call it, I'm enjoying it because
Okay.
I see it. Hmm.
But I want to go back to you actually being in prison. So,
Okay.
while you weren't using the terminology grandiosity and all that, you were still living grand, right? And you were doing you had a persona. You had a positive persona. And so now this person is sitting in a jail cell, same place that Martha Stewart was in. How did you deal with that confinement? What did that look like to you? What did that mean to you?
So we didn't have bars.
Mhm.
We didn't have bars. It was like a college dormitory. We were in cubicles, two ladies to each cubicle. Shared showers. I met a lot of nice ladies, a lot of professional judges, lawyers, doctors. Never judge.
Mhm.
I mean, high level professionals, mortgage brokers, realtors. So, and more white than black,
Mhm.
and so it was good learning everyone. What I noticed the common denominator is most of the women that I talked to. I didn't talk to everybody, but most of the women I talked to, we all experienced sexual violations as a young girl. That's the number one.
Mm.
Number two is what was the other reason? Trying to people pleasing. So you people do illegal things to make their family or friends or boyfriend happy.
Mm.
So those are two main things that I noticed of why the women ended up in prison.
Mhm. And sometimes is looking at that money and what that opportunity and the access that you have, even though it's coming from something that is not legal, you still have the cash to rule and to go wherever you want to go and wherever those
Mm-hmm.
places are, if you can pay the tab at the door, right?
Yes,
So it's not all that glitters, all that glitters isn't gold, and
that's
all
true.
that's gold isn't really real,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when you were in that prison and you had to look at yourself in that reflection, how did you get from prison to jazz and polo?
Uh, there's a couple of steps there. While I was
Yeah.
in prison, they called me haughty and grandiose. Now, I consider myself fairly intelligent, but I didn't even know what those words meant. So after I got off the initial shock, like, what? I said, yes, I'm going to name my business Grandiosity Events. So that's what I did. Here we are almost 7 years later. Grandiosity Events. So a lot of the ladies that I was in with are following me on social media, and they see my growth and the rise. So I took a lemon and turned it into lemonada, baby.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh. I like that limonada because it's real, right?
yes.
How you
Mm,
can't because you're not going to be in there forever, and
no,
you didn't allow it to define you.
no, I did not. Absolutely
Mhm.
not.
Mhm.
Nope.
So so when you got out and you had all you created in your head or on paper, whatever, while you were in prison, you created Grandiosity. How did you then begin your business now? How did you start? What was the first thing you did?
Oh, so when I came home and I said, oh, that's another story. Lord Jesus. I
Okay.
experienced so much hate and
Mhm. I
slander and
I saw some of that. Yes. Mhm.
rumors, whispers. I said, I'm going to show them grander than I can tell them.
Mhm.
So I devised what's the grandest thing you can do first event coming out of prison. Signature flight support private jet hangar. Nobody has produced an event there unless they were corporate. Here I am coming out of prison, walking up in there. I like to produce an event. And I had trepidation because I was like, Lord Jesus, I hope they don't ask or Google me. I mean, because I was fresh out less than a year from the
Mhm.
halfway house.
Mhm.
And by the grace of God, he said, well, my first available date is October 30th. And mind you, it was like September 30th. So I had 1 month and I said, yes, I'll take it. Then I went home and I was like, what the heck did you just do? I had an anxiety episode. And I said, Susan, you can't stop now. Don't let them see you sweat. And I went
Mhm.
full force, fire, and magic happened. And they were so impressed. They allowed me to come back in 7 months later. So I produced the first two events as signature flight support.
And it was packed.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
packed, and people were going all looking at all the planes.
Yes.
And
And lots of those guests never been to a private jet hangar.
mhm,
Didn't even know what a private jet hangar was.
mhm, or how to get there.
Yeah. And those are the main ones talking crap about me.
That's all right, but
Don't
they
get
were
me
at the
started,
party.
honey.
But they were at the party. They were
They
at the
sure were.
party.
Want to share their picture all over social media.
That's all right.
Okay.
That's all right. They paid that ticket though, didn't they?
Yeah. Let me keep on sipping my water over here.
And brought their friends, right? And brought their friends and brought their
Exactly.
fans.
Like they're balling.
Hmm.
But that's
So,
another whole episode, honey.
oh yeah, because we know that you're getting ready to do some other stuff. But
Yes, yes,
I
yes, yes.
think what's really also important here, too often, we don't really deal with the mistakes that we make, right? We go through life, and I I would like to see a perfect person, right? I don't know who that perfect person, and everybody's got a little something something that they try to put in the back, and every now and then that little memory of madness comes out, right? It
Mhm.
just comes out. But the reality is that if we're all walking in love, then we shouldn't have to have people feeling a certain way because they made a mistake in just trying to survive and live, which is huge. I'm
Mhm.
I'm really excited about you being on here because there are too many people who come out of prison who were doing what they needed to do to make it happen, to do whatever needed to be done, because this is how we gonna roll. And I want to live like this. I don't want
Mhm.
to live in a different way.
Mhm.
But when you go through rehabilitation, there is a point at some point where you still have to love yourself enough to be the person that you are destined to be. So
Yes.
you've now created grandiosity, and look at you. We're now getting ready. Now, how many polo shows have you had?
5, and we're celebrating our 6th annual this September 24th at
And
Congressional Polo Club. hosted by actress Lisa Ray, who's celebrating her 55th birthday in grand style. I will be celebrating my 55th birthday as well. 110 years of collective wisdom and energy. It's going to be lit. It's going to be magic and it's grander horsepower, babies.
And so they actually have the polo race, and they're actually the horses are out in the field and
Yes.
they're playing polo, which is really wonderful. Now you also have jazz. So who's performing?
Well, this year we don't have a big name artist. We have a very good local artist.
Okay.
His name is Haru. Actually, it was supposed to be somebody else, but they didn't really confirm. But Haru performed last year. He's very good. He's a hip hop violinist that does jazz, but we're still working on selection, so it's not finalized.
Yes, because it's still September and we're all the way still in May.
No, we're in June, honey.
Oh, June.
So
That's right.
June,
Keep up, Marsha. Keep
we
up.
got less than 4 months out. The time has been flying.
Yes.
Yes.
So you
Mhm.
also were in Forbes. You were doing things with Forbes as well.
Yeah, well, I have an ad account with a media agency in New York, so I have access to all the high-end prestigious magazines. So I placed an ad in Forbes twice, featuring the Forbes event. I'm sorry, the Forbes event, the polo and jazz event inside the Forbes. Yes, which gained me visibility.
Oh, of course it
Which
did.
gained, yes, the whole event visibility, and it showed how serious I am, and it catapults one to a stratospheric level when they know that you're serious enough to put a full page ad inside of Forbes.
What made you decide to do that?
Because I don't know, I mean, I'm not saying I don't know. Everything I do, it comes from the spirit source. I meditate and I ask God, universe, my inner self, what should I do next? And the answer comes to me. Voila. And that's how that happened. So what I did was, after I paid for the first ad and I saw an opportunity, a value proposition equal, I said, I'd like to have my own ad account. And they gave me one. And I put other people in Forbes and Cosmopolitan as well. And or those are the magazines that I put others in to gain them more visibility.
And so you place an ad on their behalf into the products that you use.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so what does one do in order to be part of your distribution center?
They can sign up for our list. They can go on to grandiosityevents.com or lagrandecaviar.com, which we just started a little over a month ago, almost 2 months ago.
So let's talk about what that means, because you moved ahead into a whole nother subject area, talking about the caviar. And I was looking for my Osetra to show up before the show today. I love Osetra.
I know it actually arrived today, but it's at another address.
That's all right.
And then I left the other caviar in the car yesterday.
In the car? Why are you leaving in the car?
Because I was transferring cars, so there's caviar. Somebody else got some. I got caviar in different places out here in the DMV, honey. But it'll be all in one place this Sunday at the launch.
So let's talk about that launch. What's that going to look like?
So it's going to be absolutely grandly gorgeous. It's about 80 degrees at the Baltimore Inner Harbor Marina, private marina where Rusty Scuppers is located. It's on the second pier. One of our sponsors, Polo and Jazz sponsors, is actually sponsoring their boat, and we have another client, a partner that's also allowing access to his boat. So we have access to 2 beautiful boats. The guests will be able to cruise Fells Point, but more importantly, there's going to be 2 chefs, Chef Rom and Chef Kendry.
Where are they from?
The DC area, DMV area. So 2 chefs are bringing it. Cuisine. We have a desserter. I'm sorry, I forgot the deserter's name. Her name is Kiz, but I forgot her brand. She just confirmed today. We
Mhm.
have DJ Dwayne Blythe, and we have a professional event staff. Alana Cooper is our strategic partner as well. So I had give them shout outs because they all came on board to align. We got Dwayne. Do you know Dwayne Hazelwood? He's a videographer. We got Dante Bird, that's photographer. All right, I got all them plugged in, so now we can move on. But it's gonna be beautiful. So it's gonna be grandly beautiful.
Right.
Caviar. Oh, and I forgot Ina Decors. She's going
Hmm.
to be presenting the decor at the caviar table. Now, I did fly in my Michael Aram designer caviar dish, which the
Okay.
caviar will be served from. So it's going to be beautiful. Yes.
So, with the caviar that people will be eating, will there be any mother of pearl spoons available for them to sample?
Yes. The caviar can only be served from a mother of pearl spoon, or 24 karat gold, or wood, or bone.
Mhm.
That's the only that you can only serve from anything of Mother Earth. You
Period.
cannot use a plastic fork or spoon or stainless steel because the you will ruin the caviar experience because the caviar will permeate. That's
Mhm.
the metal will permeate into the caviar, and that would be such a waste.
So let's back up a little bit because the reality is that you have created your own caviar line. You have a business selling caviar, Le Grande
Yes,
caviar. Is that correct?
yes,
And
yes.
and in doing so, what you have really said to all of your audience and all of your patrons is this is now a product that can only be sold through you or a broker, or how can people purchase your caviar, or is it just right now for those who attend your events?
No, you can purchase it on lagrandecaviar.com. So we do have two sizes, 50 grams and 100 grams. However, we will customize larger orders, volume orders.
Hmm.
And the reason why I'm saying that because my grand goal is to bring it to the attention of restaurateurs and chefs so
Yes.
they can purchase in bulk and add it to their menu and create a new culinary grander experience for their guests. So
Hmm.
that's what resorts. So that's
Hmm.
where I am retailing it
Okay, and wholesaling it.
and
So
wholesaling.
correct. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So from a wholesale standpoint, now, do you have a jar of your Le Grande with you today?
I
Girl,
I
how
left
you
it in the
going?
car last night.
You are so jive.
I know. I left it in the car. I had it ready when I was at my condo with the other interview, and I had it in my bag because I just got in yesterday on the airport. Right, I
Okay.
had my caviar bag and everything. I left it in someone's car, and then I realized it after I was already on the road. I said, "Oh, please put it in the refrigerator." So I don't
Wow.
have it with me.
Okay.
Yes,
However, people can go online and purchase as much as they want to.
yes,
Now,
yes.
the fulfillment is being done in as a wholesale standpoint. They're doing it like they would normally do any packaged good. I love your packaging. I'm sorry
Thank
I
you.
don't have it, but it's really beautiful, the
Do
black
you
and the
I
gold.
sent you pictures. Can you put on your screen?
I don't know how to do that.
See? Okay.
I don't know
We're
how to
gonna have
do
to
that.
we're gonna have to figure. Well, go on LaGrandeCaviar.com and y'all can see what the packaging, the label, and everything looks like. It's in a
Right.
jar, so you can see through it. It's not in a tin. You can see what the eggs look like, and it's so tasty.
Hmm.
And can I tell them about the benefits?
I think so. As long as you don't
Caviar,
use.
La Grande caviar is a nutritional powerhouse. It is an aphrodisiac. It is a Prozac. It is high in vitamins and minerals, vitamin B, vitamin D, selenium, telomeres, and lengthens the telomeres, which means it creates a youthfulness. You see
A
why I look so?
youthfulness. A youthfulness? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well,
It,
so
it makes you more youthful, the telomeres, when it lengthens the telomeres. And it's
wait,
a Prozac.
so you just ingest it, you don't rub it on.
You can do whatever you want. You can rub it on because they actually do have spas that do caviar facials.
Yes.
But yes, I ingest you place it on your tongue. I wish I had some,
You are
caviar
so
bum.
jive. You are so
I
jive.
know. Place a dollop on your fist. then you place on your tongue, you let it melt down your throat. And I mean, when I tell you the tingly feeling, I mean, it gets into your system.
Okay. Because you're going to a whole nother place. So, what champagne do you prefer to use with your La Grande caviar?
So my personal favorite is Tattingers. However, when I was a brand ambassador for Lamborghini, I love the Lamborghini as well.
Hmm.
But let me say this, because I'm redefining rules, you you don't have to have champagne and caviar. It can be
Mm.
what we're doing is curating specialty cocktails with the caviar. And Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey, Black owned, curated 3 specialty cocktails to pair with my caviar, Le Grande. And that's what the guests will experience this Sunday at the Le Grande Grand Lunch.
So, what are the 3 drinks that he has created for you? What's in them?
She's the National
She.
Director of Specialty Markets,
Hmm.
Ronica Dillingham. She just sent me the, oh, am I able to look at it while I'm on this or not?
Look at
Can,
what?
she sent it to me, what the 3 specialty cocktails are.
Oh, I don't know. You're on your phone, so
Yeah.
you'd have to have your, okay,
So,
I don't know how to do that. And
okay.
I don't know how to do that.
All right,
But
Katanya, we need to get Marsha one of those, whatever, sliding, whatever is called, and to show
Mhm.
this. So next time, but I'm going to share it tomorrow. I've been so busy. She just sent it to me in the email. I didn't get a chance to even share it or
Okay.
mention. Yes, I just got it in the email.
Okay.
Hmm.
So this combination has the whiskey in it. So it's a whiskey opposed to the normal champagne.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Redefining rules.
Well,
There are no more rules.
but we knew that with you because you don't like rules at all.
I am a rebel with a grand cause, y'all.
So 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 you got to also create your own line of the spoons.
I have merch. Oh, so by the way, yes, I have merchandising T-shirts and caviar chill bags in production. It's everything for is for whatever's going on is going on, but it's all in production. Yes, you will be start seeing it next week.
Okay.
It
So
should be ready next week.
so I know you are between the DMV and Florida and everywhere else. So in looking at how you're moving and the products that you're creating, do you see the polo program, the events moving around or just staying in the DMV in Bethesda, Potomac
No, we
or
definitely have
Virginia?
been. No, this is I have already visualized that it's going to be on the road, and then COVID happened.
Hmm.
And so we are back in development to take it on the road. So Polo and Jazz will be coming to another city
Hmm.
and cities actually. All
Hmm.
that is all logistics. And when we finalize all that, we will be sharing it.
Okay. So, Susan, if, in looking at starting a business from scratch, you you just manifested this while you were away, and
Mhm.
now it's in place, and it's been in place for several years. How do you see your organization growing? What's the long range plan? Because you've redefined a lot for people who can't even fathom what you do. They can't, it's hard to see yourself there if you haven't had that experience or that inclination. Can you talk about visioning?
So as a master, I consider myself a master manifester. Once I visualize something and believe it and emotionalize it, write it on paper, pen to paper as a contract to yourself. Speak it into existence. The word grand, I, I have attracted, it's called law of attraction. When you're
Mhm.
vibrating on a high frequency, you attract what is on that frequency. So as a result of that, I've attracted the people, places, and things on that frequency. And I have a crystal energy water bottle product as well.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the
Yes, I
water.
have that. Yeah, and that works. Crystal energy comes from Mother Earth. Anything that comes from Mother Earth is very powerful and magical.
Mhm.
So when you believe, and when they say, "Oh well, honey, it really works," I said, "Because when you believe,
Yeah, you got to start there.
you
Isn't
gotta
that a
believe.
song? That's a song. If you
When
believe.
you believe, then it
Mhm,
works for you."
mhm,
Just like
mhm,
the scientific study on placebos, and
mhm.
people
It's
believe that they
real.
feel better. That's because the mind, what you believe,
But you know,
becomes true for you.
but too often people are distracted.
Hmm.
Opposed to staying true to their vision, they're moving in so many different directions
Hmm.
because they can't get centered, right? Getting centered is part of it. How do you get centered to do what you do to manifest?
So I do have a ritual. I was on Fox 5 this morning. They asked me the same thing, and I tell everybody the same thing because it has become my life. Every morning upon awakening, first of all, I go to sleep every night with meditation music, 528 hertz.
Hmm.
Five, 500, anything over 500 or 432 hertz is a level of love, vibration of love. So when you're vibrating on that love stratospheric level, again, you attract whatever. So I go to sleep with that. So the binaural beats go into your subconscious, and it goes into your system and your psyche. Then upon awakening, I have affirmations that I say. And when you're saying the affirmations, you have to visualize yourself. You have to emotionalize it. And then you got to journal what it is that you see or you desire. And you
Hmm.
have to use the words I am, because everything after I am becomes true for you. It sends a
Hmm.
message to your subconscious. You can't say I want to, maybe I should. No, because that's showing lack. That shows
Mm.
scarcity. You got to say I am. I said I am grand. And then I became it. I mean, this is real life. And it was without money, y'all. It
Hmm.
wasn't the money. The magic happens when you believe, and then you attract people with the money, people, places, and things. They are the ones that got me to where I am. It had nothing to do with, I didn't have no damn money in my bank account, y'all.
Hmm.
And I kept saying, I am grand, living life grand, living life grand, living life grand every day.
Hmm. Every
And
day,
now it became
365.
every day. And now it's registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Live life grand, TM, babies.
Go ahead. So write the vision, make it plain,
Yes.
right? Write the
Yes.
vision, make it plain. And too often I've got stickies everywhere, right? I got them
Hmm.
just everywhere. You can't see them, but I'll show them to you at another time because you got
Yes.
to. It's too much to move.
Yes.
But it's critical. And if you can't see it, then how can you bring it to you? If you can't,
That's right.
I say, I have to see myself there. Can I see myself with 10 bathrooms? Can I see myself doing all of these things, be it whatever with WKIM and what it ultimately will be? Because there's so much
Hmm.
more to that, but you have to see it. Now, in that visioning process, do you keep a journal? Do you write on a regular basis, or do you speak it into something,
I
or
speak it and I see it, and I do journal. Now I'm a little off, been a little
okay,
off,
yeah,
but
you've been
we're not
busy.
perfect.
Well, you've been
So,
busy
but
because you've already created some stuff that you already know about. So you're working on
yes,
developing and disseminating all of that. So yeah.
absolutely. Yes. So I do journal. And again, even when I'm in my car, I'll play my manifestation music, and then when I'm feeling, then I'll go to my gangster music, then I'll go back to my manifestation music. So then at night, I put on my manifestation music. And another thing, I drink alkaline water, because alkaline water gets down to your cellular level. What you say and you speak, your your cells can hear you. Our cells can hear us.
They're
So
alive.
yes, yes. So we got, that's what our subconscious, our conscious thoughts have to be You have to be very conscious and mindful.
Mhm.
And I wish I knew everything I know now back then.
That's
I
all right.
wish
Yeah.
I would, you know,
You,
if you,
everything happens when it's
for
supposed
a
to happen,
reason and divine
right?
timing.
You wouldn't have been able to back then. You would not have had the wherewithal to be as centered as you are now.
That's true.
That
Ye-
just because of the environment would not
yes,
have created
yes,
the possibility of peace and
yes,
being centered, right?
yes. That is true.
Right. And so in looking and going forward, I I think it's time for you to have that book. Where's the book? I know there's a
Uh,
book
so,
coming.
so, I, so, there is a team. I just signed the agreement that's working on my. Well, I can't say.
Okay, okay, okay,
There,
okay,
it's a
okay.
high visibility project, and all of that is encompassed in there.
Okay,
So I finally got serious about that.
okay.
So stay tuned, y'all.
Hmm. Well, we
Hmm.
know that you have lots going on. How do you manage all of these projects and deploy all these services?
I think you have to be a little crazy, zany, and magical to do this, especially multiple events happening at the same time in different cities. Like I have about 4 events happening from this weekend to next weekend between here and Miami.
Mhm.
And I manage most of it on my own, but I have to give credit to my DMV strategic partner again, Alana Cooper of Professional Events Staff. Please, y'all look her up. She has been a lifesaver. So she was handling business for me while I was in the South Flow, and when I came in, she was taking care of it. So you got to have that strong partner
Mhm.
and people that understand your personality. So then it flows.
Right. That's exactly right.
Mhm.
So, in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Living
Where do you
life
see?
grander than the grandest of the grandest on the stratospheric cloud somewhere on a mega yacht.
Mhm,
I've been on yachts, but I'm gonna
mhm,
be on a mega yacht and it might be mine.
mhm. Well, I think that one of the things that you created is a pathway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having the pathways to your vision and getting to that ultimate goal, right? You have to have the pathway. And too often we have so many things that are distractions
Mm-hmm.
that don't allow us to have the peace that we need in order to get where we're trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find that? I know you do your meditation, but when you're in the throes of things and you're moving fast, how do you manage all of the long range and the short range plans that you have while everything is still swirling around you, right? And they're happening simultaneously in all these different locations. And sometimes I think many people haven't learned how to get that centered and to be able to deploy.
You know, I keep saying it's magical because sometimes I don't even know what's going to happen, and voila, something happens.
Mhm.
So it's like I'm going with the flow of the universe. The only thing that I know is the sixth annual celebrity charity. That's our signature event every year. I work on that all year campaign. That's
Okay.
what I know. The caviar, everything else that happened just started flowing. Now with these interviews, ooh, you know what I'm telling y'all? When I tell y'all, I'm not gonna tell y'all, but what I'm getting to say, it's, it's like it's about to be fire and magic, y'all.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's something else I did visualize, but I'm not going to put it out there right now.
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh.
So we know that you're between the DMV, and for
Mhm,
those who are watching from other locations, it's the DC, Maryland, Virginia area.
mhm,
So they call it the DMV.
mhm.
But you are between the DMV and Florida. Do you have another headquartered area? Because you're always somewhere in Florida back and forth between, do they have Miami and Fort Lauderdale and all those? Do they have a MFP something? What are they? What's the nickname for the area that you rolling around in down in Florida? What are the other states?
SoFlo, South Florida, SoFlo.
Okay, okay, all right.
Um, I go with the flow of the
Mhm,
universe.
mhm.
And so
So,
yeah.
and that's really important to be able to see where you're going, because that
Yes.
visioning has helped you. Give me three things that we need to tell young girls, young ladies, high school, college age. Tell three things that they should be aware of and what they should be thinking about.
Number one, love yourself. Believe in yourself and live life grand every day, because in the blink of an eye, our life can change. And the reason why I say that, because again, we didn't get into my past, but I had a traumatic childhood. So, but because I didn't believe in myself, I didn't love myself. And whenever someone said I couldn't do something, I believed them. Whatever they said I was, I believed them. So don't believe what people say you are or who you're not. When you
Mm,
believe in who you are, you become that. So I know that had I if someone had instructed me or mentored me and loved me enough to share all that with me when I was younger, I would, who knows where I would be right now.
mm,
But I had to take this journey, and at
mhm.
almost 55 years old, to experience it, to share with other women and young girls. But definitely, once you believe in something, stick with it. Do not allow the naysayers and the haters to get in your ear and tell you otherwise.
What does that mean? Get in your ear and tell you otherwise. What does that mean?
You know how people are when they want to say, well, I don't think that's going to work for you. Oh, maybe that's not feasible. Oh, well, you don't have the money. You don't have the looks. You don't have the charisma. You're too dark skinned. You're too light skinned. Whatever it is they're going to say, they're going to have something to say. Don't listen to them. You
Why
know how
not?
many times people call me crazy? That's not going to work, Susan. You know you're crazy. You're crazy. And then I started believing I was crazy, and then I wouldn't do it. And then I started seeing these same ideas, because I've been a visionary since I was a young girl. People took my ideas.
Mhm.
And then I saw the ideas, like I would see it in the world. I said, I thought about that when I was a little girl, but people told me I was crazy. So no, do not listen to them. Do not allow anyone to get into your hemispheric space to tell you who you are, who you're not. Believe in yourself. And especially if you have a passion for something, follow it all the way through. Don't quit. Take a rest. Do not quit. Do you know how many times I broke down crying, like, Lord Jesus, why am I still doing this? And I was broke doing what I'm doing. But I love what I do. When you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. When you love what you do, the money comes. Do you know how many people I've already had to come sponsor my 2022 Polo Jazz since the last event?
How
About,
many?
I think, 11 pre-sold tables already. That's impressive. I couldn't hardly get a dag on one table till 2 days before the event in the past. Well, let me wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. You know how folks are. I'm going to wait. Now it's like, Susan, I want the same table. Susan, I love what you did. Susan, thank you for what you're doing. Because of you, my kids will be able to indulge in caviar and watch polo. Here you go. I want my table next year.
Mhm,
See, because I never quit. Because let me
mhm.
tell you, ladies, gents, no matter how old you are, once you quit, if you quit, somebody else can take your idea and run with it. If you quit, you got to start something else all over again. So where are you going to put the energy? And it's something new, or just keep going with your existing plan. Failure is part of the process of success.
And you just
It's
got to dust it off and get
you
back
just
up.
Yeah, you just dust it off and just make adjustments. And sometimes
Mhm.
you gotta leave the people that you're around.
Wait a minute. What?
Did y'all hear that?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You
You got
got
to
to
say one more
leave
time. What'd you
the
say?
people that you're around in order to be successful.
But how do you know that you need to leave them?
When you're spiritually in tune and the spirit will give you that message. When I came home, I was very vulnerable. When I came home from the halfway house, from prison, halfway house, I was so vulnerable. I wanted to help everybody. That was a people pleaser in me. While these folks were elevating, I was drowning. Do you think they cared? No, because they were elevating. They started getting the platform and, whatever. And Spirit says, Susan, something is not right. You're going to feel it. Something's not right with this
'Cause
picture.
you can feel. Wait a minute, say that again,
You
because
can feel
people
it.
don't deal with your stomach and
You
your
can feel it.
body. Right,
You will feel it. The energy
right.
will be off. Energy is real. The energy will be off. You will feel it. Messages
Mhm.
will come to you, but we tend to always overlook. Oh, no, no, no. We want to co-sign and validate our friends because we think they're friends. Not everybody's your friend. People want what you have. They want access to what you have, what you know, what you do. They want your lifestyle. They want your man. Yep, I said that too. So I mean, like, well, that's another show. But yes, I've experienced it.
Right, because that's
It's
real.
real. It
And
is real.
and they're in your face, talking to you, smiling in your face. What's that song? Smiling in your
Come in your
face.
face.
The backstabber.
Yeah, yeah.
Backstabber.
Yes,
When
yes,
that first came out, I was like, wait.
yes,
I started counting the people.
yes,
I started when that song came out. I started counting the people and erasing them.
yes. Because you'll see, and then that your feelings are right and validated. Because once you leave that situation, or they fall off somehow, or play
Mhm,
themselves out of position,
mhm,
your life starts to elevate.
mhm. What'd you say? Play
Play
themselves
themselves out of
out.
position. Goodbye and good riddance.
And don't be
And then you're
calling and don't answer the phone again. Block it. That's
well,
what I do. I
you just
block
be
them.
cordial. But you know what? I learned what I was told, because again, being a people pleaser, because I didn't have boundaries, because I grew up in a very volatile um, um, household. My father was a raging alcoholic, and I was abused. And so I didn't have boundaries. And because being a people pleaser, then I allowed people in my space. I felt sorry for people. And I, wanted to make everybody happy. And but a lot of people don't care. They again want to take advantage. And some people, because that they can sense your vulnerable energy,
Yes.
they
Yes.
pray, they pray,
Mhm.
they prey on you.
And they're just waiting for the left shoe to drop or for the door not to open or the knob won't turn. They're just waiting.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
one of the things that I think is really interesting for me that how do you how do you deal with people that have turned against you when you came home and now they can't get enough of you? How do you balance that?
You see, it's taking a little long for me to really. I am. One thing I'm learning, Lord Jesus, thank you very much, is to tame my tongue.
Hmm.
I think I don't.
Hmm.
I know what I know without knowing how I know.
Okay.
Energy is real. I
Hmm.
detect fake people,
Hmm.
and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Hmm. Hmm. And we know you for who you are, and we see you, right? We really
Mhm.
see you in all that you do. So it's not hidden from any of us, right? It's not hidden. Now, we don't have but a couple of minutes. We got 10 minutes. Tell us what you think in looking at where we are. We've been through a pandemic. We're, trying to keep it moving and life is moving in so many different directions. You've been part of your grandiosity is also donating to nonprofit organizations. Let's talk about your nonprofit
Yes.
love.
Oh my grandness, we forgot about that. I forgot about that on the Fox 5 show. Oh my grand.
That's okay because you needed to do it on my show. So keep it
That's
moving.
right. So
That's what
listen,
you get.
y'all. Listen, Linda. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. So this year, our sixth annual celebrity charity, Polo and Jazz, is benefiting Black Mental Health Alliance. It is a major issue. Mental health is a major issue in our community, with our culture, in our
Mhm.
color community. And I am being vocal and brazen enough to share my journey about PTSD from, I had compounded trauma from childhood to adulthood to into adulthood. So, and how I managed through it. So it's apropos, especially after COVID, especially after lockdown, especially with all these suicides, especially with all these mass shootings, everything that's going on in this world, inflation, people are going through it. Relationships falling apart, whatever's going on. Mental health is a serious issue.
Yes.
So I would love for everyone to please support this year's event and to understand the value of we as folks of color to stop the stigma. It's not a dirty word. And please, for us to get help. I didn't get help until I came home from prison. I think because I covered up, and that's another thing I want to talk about. I hid behind material possessions. A lot of women are hiding behind their fancy bags and red bottoms and all this, hiding that pain and hurt, and your man messing around on you with all that fancy stuff, but deep down inside y'all hurting. I've been there. I know all that. So
because it's real.
It's real.
It's real. And there's nothing worse than being married and you think that you have everything, you're on top of the world, and then all of a sudden somebody that you know has the love enough for you to tell you, did you know these 3 things are going on with your husband? Right?
Yeah. So that's why, and so a lot of women, how many women reach out to me and they say, Susan, I love the fact that you're free. As far as like, I'll wear my bikini. Yes, I will, because I'm free. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't really work out. When you love yourself,
period,
regardless if you got this, that, whatever you got going on with your damn body, just be free. Flaunt it, honey. Show it off.
Oh, because we know that you'll be dancing somewhere, just dancing.
I know, and you know what? And for the people that said that I don't have any rhythm, kick rocks.
Right.
Because I know, I know.
You got your own.
Look, I practice in the mirror. I practice in the car. I got rhythm. So y'all kick rocks.
Because we know you will be anywhere, honey, and get that move going. We're going to do this. Yes.
Yeah, baby. I bring the party, baby.
Right. Zanzibar used to be down in Washington, D.C., and I used to hang out down there. I love Zanzibar, and I'd be out the dance floor by myself, folks. Just be looking like, is she out there by herself? All these men, I don't need to talk to nobody. I don't need to be dancing. I just want to dance. That's all I'm going to do. I just want to dance. I just want to dance. I don't need to talk to you. I don't want you to hold my hand. I just want to dance.
They think they own you when you dance with them. Some of them.
Woo, you got to keep it moving, though.
That's right.
So I know that in your head somewhere you have this. You've seen a lot. You've traveled the world. You were in the military. We talked about what should happen for young women, but what about women who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s that are still youthful? What should they be doing? How should they be moving forward? How do you at 50 plus, how do you move forward?
Well, like I said, we got to love ourselves first and follow our passion and believe in ourselves. Change your diet because that affects our thoughts. I eliminated pork, chicken, and beef, but I did cheat and fell off the wagon a couple of times, y'all. I'm going to be honest. But I noticed that when I did, I got a little off. So, again, drink alkaline water. Visualize yourself where you want to be, what you want to be doing, who you want to be with, and you will manifest it. It will happen. That magic will show up. You'll get the messages from the universe in a lyric, from reading something, from a stop sign, a TV. The message will come. You see it in numbers. If you're into numerology, sequential numbers like 1111 means you're on the right path. So it's just believing, because sometimes you have to say, well, universe, God, source, power, show me a sign. I know y'all all say that. Show me a sign. But y'all get that sign and then you don't do anything. When you get that sign, that's confirmation. That means you stay on track.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the
you'll see
course.
another sign. Stay on
Mm-hmm.
course. Then you'll see another sign. And the next thing you know, you'll be near your goal.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
it's those little signs, the little baby steps that finally get you there. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And just like someone told me, and I had to learn, enjoy the journey, smell the flowers on the way,
Yes.
love yourself, believe in yourself.
And we have in our household, we have a prayer closet, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own prayer closet.
Oh,
And it's really powerful to have that oneness with Jesus, right? To be
yes.
able to just pull ourselves into this place of peace. And
Mm-hmm.
um, we don't always think to isolate ourselves, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the noise around us is so loud. It's so loud, it drowns out what we need to actually hear, because it's hard to
Yes.
hear if everything is just loud and banging, if
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
banging, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at the people that are around you and whether or not they are contributing to the noise, or they contributing to the peaceful movement and development.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. Again, it's energy.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
energy, you will know it.
Mm-hmm.
You will get the messages. You got to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be around all that noise and the distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in solace, that's when the messages come.
That's exactly right. And it's about that peace. You need to
Yes, it
have
is.
that peace in order to
Yes,
move forward. Whatever your religion, whatever your commitment, whatever
absolutely.
you see, it's about the peace that you have within in order to be the best that you can be.
That is correct.
That is correct. So we're getting ready to wrap up. We got a couple of minutes left. Susan, tell us how we can learn more about Grandiosity events. And I want to know how I can get my caviar, etc.
I'll ship you. Well, Sunday if you come through, I'll
Well,
have
I'm
all the.
still sequestered.
Okay. Well, I have samples for you. I'll have it shipped to you, darling.
Okay.
Um.
Because I
So
love
just send me.
etc.
Yeah, Royal Etc. That's our caviar brand, La Grande Caviar, Royal Etc. So I'll ship it to you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Okay, just send me the address. I have a few I need to ship out. The guests would like to come and attend and enjoy, the website to purchase tickets is lagrandecaviar.com.
Okay.
And if the guests would like to sponsor our sixth annual celebrity charity Polo and Jazz, where Lisa Ray and myself will be celebrating our 55th birthday, benefiting Black Mental Health Alliance,
Yes.
those tickets are on grandiosityevents.com, or go to Facebook, IG, Grandiosity Events.
Outstanding. Susan,
Thank you.
it is a delight to catch up with you. I'm glad you were able to be still long enough to hang out with us for an hour. We look forward to seeing you this fall.
Yay.
Yay.
Yes. Live
Okay.
life grand every day, babies.
All right. Susan Smallwood. Thank you, darling. It's good seeing you. Talk to you
Nice to see
soon.
y'all. Have a
All
grand
right.
day. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching our first segment. We're really excited about it. I love Susan, and all the projects that she's been working on have been delightful. So please follow up and check her out. Our next segment is all about the politics, and we have gubernatorial candidate Tom Perez and his lieutenant governor running mate Shannon Snead with us. So I think we have Shannon. I'm not sure where Tom is. And hi. So hi, Sean.
No, Calvin. Well, could you?
Okay.
Good evening, Marcia. So you guys are going to do.
So I don't know how this is going to work. So Shannon, how you doing? What made you decide that you were going to go ahead and run for lieutenant governor? Wait a minute, we're having some sort of difficulty.
It's me. I think that was.
Oh, okay, good. That's all right. Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Hi.
How
I
are
have a
you?
question. I am good. I'm still excited to be in this race with the next governor, Tom Perez. And so we are crisscrossing the state and, of course, joining so many platforms to get our message out so people are aware of where we stand on the issues and doing interviews to get endorsements and then knocking on doors, all of the above to make sure we get our message out there.
Well, I didn't read I was trying to find your bio, all these papers and stuff in front of me. So I do want to make certain that people know what you've been up to. And you are a graduate from University of Maryland, Eastern Shore and Morgan State University. And you began your career in broadcast journalism, helping the people of Baltimore tell their stories. And later, as a professor at Coppin State, she empowered her students to find their own voice. And she's a graduate of Emerge Maryland, an organization that works to prepare Democratic women to run for public office. She was elected to Baltimore City Council in 2016, where she represented District 13 in East Baltimore. And on the council, Shannon championed legislation to support public servants, lift up working families, and work to expand public accommodations for women. Shannon and her husband are raising their daughter Ray right here in Baltimore. And I see we have our candidate, Tom Perez, is coming up, and he's the son of immigrants. He is a lifelong Democrat who has dedicated his life to fighting for jobs, justice, and opportunity. After his dad tragically died when he was 12 years old, Tom helped pay his way through college working on the back of a garbage truck. He began his career in the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, where he prosecuted some of the country's most high-profile civil rights cases. In 2004, Tom Perez became the first Latino ever elected to the Montgomery County Council, and he later served as Maryland's labor secretary, where he implemented Maryland's first in the nation living wage law in 2009. President Barack Obama appointed Tom to lead the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, where he took on big banks for racial discrimination against African American and Hispanic communities. And in 2013, he was appointed to President Obama's U.S. Labor Secretary, where he settled major national strikes and fought for workers across the country. Tom and his wife, Anne Marie, raised their 3 children in Tacoma Park with their dog, Bubba. How's Bubba? How you doing, Tom?
Great. Bubba was our rescue dog from South Carolina. We didn't want to change his name, Marcia, because he'd been Bubba for 3 years, and
right.
We got him in the middle of COVID.
Oh my goodness! So yeah. How'd you get him up here?
There's a program, an organization called Lucky Dog, which rescues dogs that are in danger of being killed, and
wow.
They drive down. They have a truck. They go down there. They rescue dogs. They bring them up here. And they try to find him a home. And
I love it.
We wanted to be helpful at that point. And it was, so we've had Bubba now for a couple of years. And Shannon was over at our house a while ago, and her daughter, Ray, who I think is now 5, got to play with Bubba. And I was a little afraid that on the car ride home, Ray was going to be saying to Mom and Dad, "I want a dog, Mom. I want a dog, Dad."
She is. She's still saying that every day. She says it.
So now you got to get the dog.
Oh my goodness! When she's a little older, I feel like all the work will fall on my husband and I, which means that all the work will fall on me.
Amen to that. And I'm the early riser in the family, so I'm the one who walks them in the morning because nobody else is up.
Right. See.
That's the only thing. I do not want to go out and walk the dog. We have cats, and so they're easy.
Yeah. Different thing. Yeah.
It's a whole different world, right? Though I love dogs, and I had 2 dogs growing up. I'm a dog person, but my grandson loves dogs too.
Yeah.
So look at you two. You're running, right?
Yeah.
What made you both decide to work together? Let's start there. What was it that you saw in Shannon? Shannon, what did you see in Tom to make this happen, to make this a partnership?
Well, for me, it starts with values. when I first sat down with Shannon, I knew her by reputation, and her reputation was someone who was a fighter, fighting for people who are living in the shadows, fighting for people, just want to get a fair shake.
Mhm.
And, you mentioned that my dad passed away when I was 12 years old. One of the things that impressed me about Shannon was we had somewhat similar upbringings in the sense that we both lost our dad at an early age. And we both were raised by really strong moms. Every Mother's Day and Father's Day, I would give my mom a card because she was my mother and my father. And
Mhm.
so I saw that. I think when you have struggle in your young years, it builds character, it builds some scar tissue, and it builds a determination to make sure that everyone has a fair shake. So for me, what attracted me to Shannon was that I thought we had shared values. I thought we had many shared experiences. And I thought that together we can bring jobs, justice, and opportunity across this state. And
Mhm.
I've been thrilled to have Shannon as a partner, and we are really building momentum.
I think that's really interesting because, too often we don't always see the other person, right? And we miss all of the nuances that really relate because we're always moving so fast, right? But you two took the time and is this a relationship that you all had long term, or was this something that the environment created for you two to be able to get together to create this partnership?
Can I just say it?
Yeah, no, I was going to let Shannon answer
But
this. I don't
it's
want to.
so when you are into politics and you watch national politics, some of the folks that you see on CNN and MSNBC, so my mother and I often talk about politics and who was on. And so I felt like I knew Tom before I actually knew him because I've been watching him, right? Advocate for Democrats and really fight for us. So there was not, we didn't know each other for years, but it has felt like I have known him for years. So.
Mhm. Mhm. And too often, while you have these relationships, they're sort of fragmented because everybody's moving. And Tom, you're in the Montgomery County area,
Correct.
and Shannon, you're here in Baltimore, not far from me. I think you're in my neighborhood somewhere. So, how do you bring it all together? And this is really interesting because this is a unique relationship, and it's a relationship. If you two are going to,
Yeah.
you're up against all these people, right? So you've got to be cohesive in your thinking, in your values. And what else did you have to look at in order for the two of you to look at together to say, we're going to do this? We're going to go up against all these people that are running against us. And we're going to be able to survive for what reasons? What are the passions that the two of you hold that will make you a leader in this race?
Well, I mentioned the values alignment, and I
Mhm.
think that's really important. I mean, we want to make sure we're tackling the issues that matter most to people. My parents taught me that if you want to get to heaven, you got to have letters of reference from folks living in the shadows.
Mhm.
And I've tried to live a life of purpose and service. Shannon is the same way. Uh, that alone is really important, but that alone is not enough.
Right.
I think another area of common ground that we have is we both work our butts off, and I've frequently been underestimated in my life, and I like that when people underestimate me. I played a lot of sports, and it was fun to watch people underestimate you, and then they beat you. When I ran for county council 20 years ago, people said, "You're not going to win. You've never run before." This person, has been to the Rotary Club and been to the chamber, and the only thing you've done is help this organization, this grassroots organization. And I took that as a little bit of a challenge, and we were able to do that. And Shannon's the same way. You're not going to win that city council race. Well, she out hustled folks, and
Mhm.
we're talking to people everywhere. And so I think our work ethic is exceedingly similar. And that's what it's about, because this election is, I mean, people are going to vote this weekend because they're going to get their ballots on Saturday in some cases. And so that's why you got to be out there talking. And so our work ethic and our, those shared values and a shared vision is why it's been, I think, a great partnership. And, I also want, for me, I wanted to make sure that people in the Baltimore area understood that I know that, as Baltimore goes, so goes Maryland. We all succeed only when we all succeed. I had the privilege of working in Baltimore City for 7 or 8 years, starting in 2001, because I ran the legal clinics at Maryland Law School. And so we were doing lead paint work. We were doing community economic development, criminal justice reform. And I saw the resilient Baltimore that I know and love. And, post Freddie Gray, President Obama asked me to lead the charge, the federal response. And it was a labor of love. And so, with Shannon and I together, I mean, Shannon got 41,000 votes in 2020 when she ran for city council president. Folks in Baltimore know her and they respect her. And I can't tell you the number of people who said to me, Tom, I wasn't sure who I was going to support. Then you picked Shannon. You made it easy.
Can I just add, Tom picked me in February. And so he was already on the campaign trail way before he brought me onto this ticket. And so I got the opportunity to hear all of the candidates and hear some of the things that they were saying. And it worried me as a resident of Baltimore City to hear, and as a councilwoman, to hear some of the things that they were saying. And so when Tom was probably the last one that I actually heard in person. And Marge, I have to say, it was a room full of businesswomen, Black businesswomen who had been affected by COVID, who had businesses, who had questions about their businesses, who are raising sons, who talked about, fear of, having their sons go outside or what's going to happen when they're pulled over, and, mental illness. And Tom answered all of those questions. And when he didn't know something, he admitted that he didn't know something. And he said, but that's about bringing on the best people, surrounding yourself with smart people. And I said, that's what I want. I want someone who's going to be in the governor's office, who knows where the bathrooms are, who has experience, who knows what they're doing when it comes to policy and legislation. And as a councilwoman, when I've heard some of the candidates talking, I'm like, you can't do that. First of all, you have to get enabling legislation for Baltimore City to do certain things. That means you have to work with the House and you have to work with the Senate. And so when it comes to policy, I'm like, you can't pull the wool over me. You can't. That's just not how it is. And then when, as a councilwoman, all I talked about is, listen, we don't want handouts. We want jobs. We want businesses to come. And so that way we can take care of our families. That way we're also able to be in our homes, to make sure we know where our children are and what they're doing. Like, families matter. And as someone who's been fighting for Maryland families the whole entire time I was in City Hall and telling their stories as a journalist, that mattered to me, to have someone who said, listen, the platform here, this is what I'm going to do. Jobs, justice, and opportunity. It couldn't be any clearer. And so to me, that made it different. It was like my brother in a fight, labor chairwoman of the labor committee. He is the U.S. Secretary of Labor for President Obama, and our labor secretary right here in the state of Maryland. That says something.
It does. But I think here's a thing that really is concerning. Baltimore is one of the largest voting blocks in terms of circumference and numbers of people. But we have also to look at how the votes are going to run from Montgomery County and the breadth and the depth of Montgomery County, from Tacoma to Bethesda and whatever, right? But then we've got to think about what's happening out in Western Maryland and Southern Maryland. Those are real different demographics, and they have real different requirements. How do you look at all of these very different communities and develop a plan that will empower the people that live in those different communities? What is the strategy?
I mean, I think there are a lot of shared values and shared priorities. I mean, education is the great equalizer. The blueprint for Maryland's future is a blueprint that is going to expand opportunity and improve education everywhere. And we have a shared interest in making sure it works. Now, some of the challenges are different in different counties, but actually, there's a lot of similarity. And I mean, one example is we have a teacher shortage. And that teacher shortage is in rural Maryland. It's in my neck of the woods. It's in your neck of the woods. It's everywhere. We have transportation challenges across the state. Now there are different challenges in different areas, but we've got to build the. Sorry, that was Bubba. Bubba just came into the room.
Hey, Bubba.
So, yeah. We have to build the Red Line. We have to build a regional transit authority in Baltimore. And then down in Southern Maryland, we have to build the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. And in my neck of the woods, in Montgomery and Prince George's counties, we've got to finish the Purple Line. So we've got transportation challenges, pretty much in, many areas of the state. The opioid crisis is a crisis in every county and every community. It doesn't discriminate on the basis of race, geography, income even. It's a real challenge everywhere. And what Shannon and I want to do is make sure we understand that what unites us as a state in terms of both our challenges and our opportunities far outweighs what our differences are. Clean energy, and there's so much job creation opportunity across the state on clean energy, especially in Baltimore. I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. The ticket to the middle class for Black people in Buffalo and Black people in Baltimore from 1950 to mid 80s was Bethlehem Steel. And you could feed your family and live a middle class life, own a home, working at Bethlehem Steel. Now we all know what happened there, and what happened there was tragic. And now we have an opportunity in Maryland to create these wonderful $30, $40 an hour union jobs in offshore wind and manufacturing the component parts of offshore wind. And so I really, what we love about the state is that, so many of the challenges really are, cross-cutting. If you go to Garrett County right now, there's one psychiatrist living there, one full-time psychiatrist in the whole county. That's the westernmost county in the state. They've got healthcare challenges. We have healthcare challenges in the city of Baltimore of a different variety, but we all have healthcare challenges in terms of we've got to build out the community mental health infrastructure because we have issues in Baltimore City, we have issues in Garrett County, we have issues across the state, and that's why I think we're excited about leading because the next governor and lieutenant governor are going to have to be the multitaskers in chief. People often ask me, Marcia, tell me the one thing you're going to do, the one priority. And I always ask, well, when I talk to folks, whether it was in Northeast Art Market, I remember when we were walking in the Northeast Market one day, Shannon, people don't have one thing going on. They got a lot of stuff going on in their life. And if we accomplish one and only one thing for them, I will feel like I have failed them because I want to make sure they have opportunity. We want to make sure they have opportunity broadly defined. I love the question.
So when I look at, and I say all of those different locations because I've done work in those different locations. And when I sit down and look at where we are and the face of the people throughout this state, education is critical. And in too many of these communities, our children are suffering. They were suffering already. And now through COVID, it is a catastrophe. There are too many homes that do not have access to not only the internet, half of them don't even have lights or gas. I had an experience that was very personal, and this was well over 10 years ago, and I still remember it as though it were yesterday. I was working for Alvin Ailey Dance Theater Foundation of Maryland, and we had Ailey Camp. That was in the summer, it was at Morgan, and then in the fall, it was at UMBC. And at UMBC, this young girl's parents were supposed to pick her up, and they didn't show. So I took her home. She lived in an alley street. There were a lot of children living in alley streets. And in this alley street, her house, the bottom of the door, you know how your doors have that little edge, there's a little frame around. The bottom of the door was missing. It was dark outside, and when she went inside, she never turned the lights on. I got out of my car in a very difficult neighborhood and asked her to turn the lights on, and she didn't have any electricity. And I had to sit there for hours waiting for somebody to come to her home to see about her. There was no phone, there's no electricity, and a door that's partially missing within an alley street where animals are moving around. That to me brought reality to my core. And it will be with me for the rest of my life because we still have alley streets. We still have young people who do not have, we're worrying about internet connection when they don't have electricity or water running in their house. How do we look at the entire state? Because there are people who are socially and economically disadvantaged at levels that I can't even begin to fathom because I've just been so blessed in the modesty that I live in. How do we change that? What is the big picture? How do you take that big picture and narrow it down to the reality of what people, and this is not just Baltimore City. It certainly is, and it's in a more compressed environment. But those problems, because I've been out at Frostburg State University doing the same thing with Alvin Ailey, and those same kids who don't look like me are having the same problems out there. And I know about the Eastern Shore because I had family that lived out there. The same thing is happening there. It's happening in parts of Silver Spring. It's happening in parts of Tacoma Park. I know because I lived in Silver Spring. I've lived in Bethesda, and there's a vast difference in this state. How do we deal with the reality? How do we educate our children properly? I saw something where people were talking about, oh, well, we've got to get the education under this. We got to do all of these little things. But there's the expediency is not fast enough. And the solutions are not big enough that can be happening in a short period of time because it's a survival. And then we have this expectation, and I'm going to go on because I need to get this out. The reality is how do we change the course of the lives of the people in the state of Maryland dramatically without this long drawn out BS that we've been dealing with for the last however many years I've been living here.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous.
Well, I want to have Shannon give some observations as well. And what I would say at the outset is, first of all, if we were in church right now, I'd be saying amen.
Right.
And we would have been standing up and we would have been clapping because you are speaking truth to power. We're the wealthiest state in the country as measured by median income. And yet we are a tale of two states in so many ways. And the eloquence of how you pointed that out is it is rural, it is urban, it is white, it is black, it is brown, it is API, it is Native Americans, it is across the state. I mean, my wife is a legal aid lawyer. When we first moved to Maryland, she was representing kids in need of assistance in Carroll County and was going to homes that didn't have indoor plumbing. This is Maryland, okay? And this is the world we live in. And, when LBJ in 1964, President Johnson, when he announced his war on poverty, he went to 6 locations across the country to make announcements about his war on poverty. You know where one of them was? Cumberland, Maryland. And I was out there recently, and I said to some folks, we need to renew the war on poverty in our own state. And we need to understand that when we talk about broadband, it is an issue in every corner of this state. The Department of Commerce has a chart every state in the country by region, and you can see where the broadband deserts are. And we have broadband deserts across this state. It's not simply a phenomenon in one place or another. We have generational poverty. And what that breeds a poverty of hope. And that's why we are running for governor and lieutenant governor. You know, I was raised in the faith tradition of Matthew 25. And for those who, have not, might be of a different faith or of no faith, what that simply means, and it's not a tradition.
Well, I'm a Christian, so go ahead. You can say what you want about it. Tell us about Matthew 25. We don't care about whatever. If you ain't a Christian, go look it up. Go ahead.
I was taught that when someone is thirsty, you give them water. When someone is hungry, you give them food. You see the sign behind me. When someone is a stranger among us, we welcome them. When someone is incarcerated, we respect them. That's what my faith teaches me. That's what my parents taught me. And Shannon and I have tried to live lives of purpose and service where we are helping people. You know, when I was working on minimum wage, it was the basic value proposition of minimum wage is that no one who works a full-time job should have to live in poverty. The 40-hour week, that was the same thing. And we have to understand as a state that we're the richest state in the country, and yet we have generational poverty within
Period. And here's something that was really, and I need to intersect right here. Something that's really fascinating to me is that we have all this sanctimonious conversation that doesn't change the course of people's lives. And it's BS, really. Because the reality is if in that movement going to Frostburg State, there were all of these principals that came into the room over there in the fine arts department. And all of these people were sitting there, and I'm the only black face in the room. And it doesn't matter. I'm born in South Bend, Indiana, so I'm accustomed to that mentality. And so when I started telling them about at risk and all of that, these are principals with the little red pants on and went in to say, well, we don't have all that out here. Oh, okay. So you don't have alcoholism. So you guys must not. Is this a dry area? So you don't sell alcohol out here, right? Oh, and they look, and I said, oh, I know you don't have people who are, be domestic violence. Men and women aren't hitting each other, and kids aren't being abused, and they're not having to go to the house. And I ran this whole list down, right, of all of the things that you would find in Baltimore City. And so when I got finished, this one dude sitting over there raised his hand at the end of the table. And I want to say his name is Peter that worked out there. And he looked at me, and I looked at the dude, and I said, well, yeah, what's going on? He said, so at risk means, and he named everything I said again. And he looked around at the other principals, and he said, we may need to investigate this at-risk business. Because sometimes people don't even know what they don't know. They're just functioning. You don't realize that all of these kids that are out here that are in gangs, in the households, and they're living in alleys, they're living in vacant buildings, and we expect them to go to school. We expect them to be able to be present. We're expecting a wife who's been beaten and can't even go to work. She's getting fired because she's got black eyes or bruises, or she's got all of these issues. And then we want to sit down and we talk about the police, but daggone, the police are sitting out in the cars and they're not even arresting people. And they see the drug deals going on face to face out on the corner of the street. So we have all of these issues that are in our face. They're in our face. How do we change that course in this city, in this state? Because it's not just Baltimore. We've got 300 plus people murdered, grandmothers, young kids, grown folks. It doesn't matter. But it's all based on the pain that they've gone through. So we talk about mental health and emotional health. How do we resolve this? Because it's not just Baltimore. We're the ones that the Baltimore Sun wants to write about. They don't write about all these other communities who are having the same problem and they don't ever go there.
Can I just say, as
Yes.
a councilwoman, former councilwoman in Baltimore City, and even as the regional director for U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, and knowing a little bit more about the state, even working under him, and addressing some of the issues when you talk about the internet, he used to call it the homework issue. So that was before COVID, and we would get calls from Harford County in Baltimore City. And, the companies will push back and say, no, it's not us, it's you all. And we're like, no, that's not true. And another part where you talked about, I wanted that because I took some notes, even when we talk about education, my daughter is in public school in Baltimore City. She's at Commodore John Rogers. Tom picked me in February. My daughter was already in public school, and she's in public school because I wanted, and I'm going to add my husband. My husband and I wanted to make sure that not just my daughter, should have a good education, but all kids, no matter what zip code they live in. So it shouldn't matter if you live in 21217 down the street from Penn North, or if you live in 21224, or if you live in Somerset County, one of the poorest counties in Maryland, that it doesn't matter, that we should be advocating to make sure that our children have the best, our students have the best. And that goes into the other point of Kerwin. When Kerwin they talk about all the issues that we address, and not that it's all should fall on educators and teachers, but that is almost the hub of where we can recognize what's going on and we can pinpoint it. And so I'm like, those are why we want to make sure that we support some of those programs, because that's statewide. Even when you talk about housing in Baltimore City, as a city councilwoman, we actually started and we voted on and passed the Affordable Housing Trust. And so pilots like that is what I want to see all over the state. You talk about Kerwin, you talk about housing. Those are issues that can address our whole entire state, because I don't care where you live in the state, everyone wants a good school in their community, everyone wants a safe community, and everyone wants a clean community. And so that's why I'm like, we address this issue on a local small issue, and if they're working, we take them higher, we take them to the governor's office, and we get our peers, our colleagues, to help us make sure that we're working in partnership, so it does become a reality that we are addressing the issues. And as a councilwoman, I'm going to tell you, I knocked on doors when it wasn't election season, when it wasn't election time, to see what was going on in my community. So, and I would see lines going back to another home because they didn't have electricity in their home, or they couldn't afford to get it. And so I would have to make sure, listen, this is not safe. Let's address this issue. And you see that when you're working with your communities and you're working with your senators and delegates and bringing resources to the state. So there's opportunity, and I know Tom and I can address those issues.
And again, if I were in church, I'd be standing up saying amen. I love your question, Marcia. Okay. And I think what Shannon just said is we have to start out by articulating our values, and one of our values is that zip code should never determine destiny. One of our values is that we all succeed only when we all succeed. And it's up to government to make sure that these things are there. Education is the great equalizer, and education should be accessible and empowering everywhere. And education starts not in kindergarten, but we have to make sure we understand from cradle through career, we need to be investing. And we need to understand that safety is job one. We need to understand that housing should be a right for all and not a privilege for a few. And we need to understand that healthcare should be a right for all, not a privilege for a few. 25% of COVID deaths in the state of Maryland were a function of the fact that we still have 375,000 uninsured Marylanders. Now, thank God for Obamacare. Let me be clear about that, because before Obamacare, we had 1 million uninsured Marylanders, but we still have too many. And the reason I bring this up, Marcia, is because the next governor is going to have to be, and the next lieutenant governor, they're going to have to be multitaskers in chief. We have to address all these issues right now. And Shannon and I come to you with a sobriety born out of the fact that there's a lot of hard things going on. But we also come to you with an unrelenting sense of optimism, because we firmly believe that when you look at some of the most tumultuous moments in our nation's history, and I know, Marcia, you and I'm sure our listeners, our viewers are students of history as well. I look at the 1930s and the 1960s as the two most tumultuous decades of the 20th century and the two most accomplished decades of the 20th century. And for me, on a personal level, I had the privilege of being your head of the Civil Rights Division. 10 years ago, I was going after big banks, and I was going after, rogue cops, and I was going after, folks who were not hiring you because of the color of your skin or because you had a disability. And I had the privilege of doing that. And the laws I enforced were from the 60s. And when Barack Obama, asked me to be labor secretary, the laws I enforced were largely a product of the 1930s. Why do I bring this up? Because those two decades were decades of incredible struggle, incredible sacrifice, incredible courage. I think about John Lewis. I think about all these other heroes and sheroes from those decades. And ultimately, those decades were remarkable accomplishment. We're in another one of those moments, Marcia. Mm-hmm. And I think in the aftermath of George Floyd and other things, there's an understanding that, we can't sweep this under the rug any longer. Mm-hmm. And we're running for governor and lieutenant governor because we don't intend to sweep it under the rug. And I asked you, and we had a debate recently with all the candidates, and I said, and I'll say it again here, the best way to figure out what someone's going to do in the future is to look at what they've done in the past. Mm-hmm. And the question and the point that you made and your very eloquent statement of it, what it illustrates is that the next governor is going to have to really know how to govern, because we need to bring the ranks of the uninsured down to zero. We need to work in partnership with Baltimore, not in conflict with Baltimore, to address the crime issue. And I was a former prosecutor. I've worked with police departments in probably 2 or 3 dozen communities conservatively who've had problems very similar to Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we're not going to reduce crime sufficiently in Baltimore until we build a relationship of trust between the police and the community. Police reform is a necessary and insufficient condition of addressing everything. But if we don't do that, we won't succeed. And
listen, let me tell you, I got to interrupt right here because this right here, I live in East Baltimore. I'm in the heart of it. So y'all can't tell me nothing about the ghetto. No, nothing. Y'all can't tell me nothing.
Listen, my first property was in East Baltimore.
Okay,
so I still own on Fayette Street, and now I'm 2 blocks from Penn North. So I'm having a real conversation. This ain't something I'm guessing or seeing down the street and around the corner. Yep. I'm seeing cops sitting on the corner drinking their coffee and drug dealers not even a block away doing their little jobs, right? They're at work. They're on the early shift, and we got some on the evening shift. And so here we are wondering, well, where the police just said, what, can't he see? I see. How come y'all can't see? But see, then that says to me that there's a different issue with the police who are getting paid something because they're not doing any work. So when we would sit down and we look at who's killing who, they're allowing these people to kill each other. Remember, the Baltimore City jail was taken over by the Black Guerrilla Family Gang. We don't want to deal with that. They took over the Baltimore City jail. And so here is where you're supposed to have all these cops and doing all that, and you're supposed to do rehabilitation. But how are you going to do rehabilitation when you ain't even running the jail? But Marsha, I true into all that, but it's still, to me, it goes back to having a relationship and being transparent and honest. As a councilwoman, that's why I put in that bill so victims of police brutality could speak their piece. And so we know, living in East Baltimore and West Baltimore, that we would see jump out boys, and we said it for years and no one did anything. And so that was the point of why I put in the legislation and worked with my colleagues and said the stories over and over again. Like, we see this, we know this. this. But if victims of police brutality can't speak out, we're going to have an issue. That means it's going to keep happening. Things are going to keep happening in our community. So
but
that,
those are the same people who are not, they don't tell. That's part of the culture. So there has to be a different type of management system over the police department in order for people to be able to make certain that they're safe, because you can't get there from here in that position. You can't, it's not possible.
You know, Marcia, I just to give you and your listeners and viewers some context of just my own experience. I was in the police reform work for a substantial part of my career. And to give you like real context, I prosecuted an LA police officer pre-Rodney King. Okay, Rodney King happened, I think, in '92. So when I tried that case, Daryl Gates, a name you probably remember, he was the police chief. We got a conviction in that case. He had abused a person of color, unnecessarily, and he was convicted. Did I change the culture of the police department? Heck no. It was a absolute toxic culture in the LAPD.
And it's same here in Baltimore right now.
Well, and here's that's the bad news. Here's the good news. It took a decade. That was the challenge. But in 2000, with the community at the table, a consent decree was reached, an enforceable consent decree that resulted in culture change in that department. And things got materially better. And the reason I bring that up is because, I choose every day to live my life with optimism. And I always watch myself to make sure that it's not false optimism. And I've been doing, and Shannon, we've been doing a lot of listening, and boy, the stories break my heart in Baltimore, and what you're describing, it just breaks my heart. At the same time, I saw and heard similar stories in Los Angeles. We can do this. There was a really important police reform bill passed last year, and some of my friends in the community are saying, well, it's broken, it's not working. And my point is, it just got passed. Now we're implementing. And one of the tenets of the bill is to give the community a seat at the table, a seat that wasn't there, and a seat that we need to take and make sure we are using that voice and that opportunity to make sure that this reform is lasting. Now, I'm not here to tell people that this is going to happen overnight, but I am here to tell you that we can reduce crime and we can respect civil rights. I've seen it done. I have worked on this issue, and this is an issue where when we are governor and lieutenant governor, we will be a partner with the city of Baltimore, with the community, with the police department. We will work together to build out a community mental health infrastructure. We will work together to reform parole and probation, because we know that a disproportionate amount of crime is committed by people who are on parole or probation. We will work together to reduce that backlog of 30, 40,000 warrants that are still outstanding. We will work together to make sure that we are addressing the underlying root causes that started this conversation, by the way. We were talking about poverty. Because we've got to do all of this. And I come to you with optimism, because I think that in this George Floyd aftermath, there is an understanding that, perhaps wasn't there, should have been there, but wasn't there for everyone. And so, this is what motivates both of us. And now we're sort of coming full circle to your initial questions about, what makes you tick.
Right.
What makes me tick is when we can help people. That we're part of what I call the GSD wing of the Democratic Party. We want to get stuff done. And you know what? The next governor and lieutenant governor, we got a lot of stuff we need to get done, and stuff that improves lives. We have to address the opioid crisis, and
it's huge.
Have resources to do it.
It's huge. And here's another piece that there's so much. We can't even get it out in a whole hour, right? Because there's so much. But the reality is that, you know, my grandson is being homeschooled because my daughter was like, yeah, we cannot put him in these Baltimore City school system. It's not, they don't have heat half the time. They don't have, the teachers aren't teaching, people aren't showing up, and then you get COVID. And so now you got COVID and it's exacerbated everything else. How do we now change the trajectory? Because now you have all these babies who are trying to go to school who don't have the infrastructure at home to be able to get what they need in the school system, and they can't get what they need when they go home. And so how do we educate our children in this environment? And it goes from elementary to high school. How do we change that for them? Because now we're creating this pocket of people who are just left behind for real.
Can I start? Can I start? Because, like I said, I have a 5-year-old who's in public school, and I thought it was very necessary for my daughter to go back to school because I didn't want her to lose track of when you break for a certain amount of time, you lose the information. I wanted to make sure too, I'm working full time. So I had to work during the pandemic. And thank God I had a job, because at one point my husband lost his job during the pandemic. So let me just say I'm thankful and blessed. But we didn't have I still had to work and pay the bills. And my daughter had to learn it. I thought the best thing that we could do to make sure was to send her to school. And so I'm still an advocate of, we don't want our kids to be down. We don't want them to be depressed. And it's so easy for our young people to be that way. And our teachers and I can't do it. I say I have a village at home, and we definitely have the village at school who do so much to make sure that our students are well equipped and ready. And so I believe that while we have our bumps in the road, I generally believe that our teachers are doing what they can do, because they're under a lot of pressure too, where they want their students to pass, and it's coming down from the administration. But all together is us working together. And that's why I do support, again, the blueprint, because I think it makes a difference when it's fully funded. Okay, we can't half do it. It has to be fully funded. And so I still go back full circle that whatever we can do to make sure that our babies are learning and growing, either in school or out of school, because it works for some to be in school, but it also works for some to be out of school. It's just that I'm advocating, if you're saying that what's best for my house, it's best for my child to have that, those skills to interact with other children, the skills to sit in class, to do her work, when I know that I'm not the expert in that field, to have an expert as a teacher and the school staff to be surrounded with her.
Right. But, Aaron Maben had to almost do a walkout to put heat in schools, right? Into some of the schools, and that wasn't all of the schools. And so if we're in the winter, we don't have the heat, and in the summer, we don't have air, or we don't have fans, or something's not working. So we have this combination of issues in the Baltimore public school system that does not service our children properly. And so if we were to look at, my daughter went to elementary school in Bethesda. It's a different world over there, right? And no one would dare think of not having any electricity or any heat or anything else in Bethesda. So how do we make something equitable on a statewide level, where our children, all of the children in the state of Maryland, are getting a holistic approach to how they're being educated and what we're giving them to be educated?
Yeah, no, I mean,
cash rules.
I've said repeatedly,
cash rules. And
said,
I have that example. I'm sorry, Tom. But Bethesda, I know the difference. Bethesda, Baltimore school systems are night and day. And how do we create equity?
Well, by implementing the blueprint. The blueprint is about equity. And this governor opposed the blueprint. when the
Thank
blueprint
God
passed
he's gone.
by the way, the governor opposed the blueprint. The comptroller, who's now a candidate for governor, opposed the blueprint. I don't know if you recall when he apologized for the heat issue. Well, you know what? I don't want apologies. I want action.
Mhm.
And, if you're not, budgets are moral documents. If you say to me, hey, education's important, well, then, you know what I would say to you? I'd like to see, show me your budget, because that will tell me whether you really think it, because I want to see you put your money where your mouth is. And this is what we would do. We're going to fully fund the blueprint, but we have to do more, because the blueprint was a document that was being discussed pre-pandemic. Now we've got so many other things we have to do.
Yes.
I would take part of the surplus that we have, and we would invest in building out a much more robust mental health infrastructure in schools. Because look at the data. The data is overwhelming. This pandemic has created a mental health pandemic as well. And so we need to equip our educators and our education support professionals with the tools they need to succeed. We would take part of the surplus and we would pick up the pace of the school modernizations, making sure, like we have to start with the basics. 100-degree heat in the summer and 40-degree heat, lack of heat in the winter is unacceptable.
Right.
And so we pick up the pace, because we can have all this vision in the world in the blueprint, but if you go to school hotter than hell in the summer and colder than all get out in the winter, the blueprint is useless.
Yes.
And so these are the things we have to do. We have to invest in early childhood, because the genius of the blueprint is its focus on cradle through career. We have to invest in career and technical education, because you know what? College ain't for everyone. I firmly believe that apprenticeship is a remarkable ticket to the middle class, especially with what we were talking about before with clean energy and offshore wind. Those are $30, $40 an hour union jobs. We've got incredible opportunities when we start building the red line, or whatever we're going to call it, but we're going to do it. I want these projects to be built by Baltimore area labor, union labor. And that's what we want to do. But we've got to make sure we're building the pipeline of diverse talent so that we can do all this. This is not going to be easy. And again, I really think what's important in this campaign is to understand that governance is hard. Maryland state government is a complex organization. The governor is the chief executive officer of a complex organization. We have a healthcare challenge of significance that we have to address. We have climate challenges. We have the schools challenge. We have the crime challenge. We have the broadband challenge. We have the opioid epidemic. We haven't even talked in this conversation about housing and the affordable housing crisis. And we can talk about so many other things. That next governor, and by the way, God forbid, if we have a recession and people lose their jobs, you know what happened during Larry Hogan? During the pandemic, people waited 7 or 8 months to get their unemployment benefits when they had 7 hours of savings. They didn't have 7 months of savings. The next governor needs to make sure that the Department of Labor is working. I don't blame the dedicated career professionals for that problem. I blame the governor, because he didn't sweat the details of governance. And the undertold story about Maryland government right now is there's been a brain drain, and there's been a hollowing out of government. There's been contracting out of too many jobs. There's been a fundamental disrespect for state employees. And we need to change that culture. We need for the governor and the lieutenant governor to come in and tell the dedicated career professionals, we are partners in this. We respect you. That's really important. And the reason why we feel that we are the best ticket, and we were honored to have the support of so many folks in Baltimore and elsewhere. Our good friend Corey McRae and others in Baltimore. The Washington Post down in my neck of the woods, gave a really full-throated endorsement of our candidacy, because they understand that governance is hard. And I love apprenticeship. I just said that a minute or two ago. The governor and lieutenant governor shouldn't be an apprenticeship program. You got to get in there day one, lead.
That's right.
And that's the reality. And that's why, and you can't forget about what we talked about at the outset of this, because I know we're winding up. We have to remember what our North Stars are. there's just too many people in this state that have not only like lost their job, lost their health care, lost a loved one. Um, they've lost hope. And that's something that breaks my heart, and it breaks Shannon's heart. And we are going to instill not just false hope, but we're going to instill jobs. We're going to instill justice. We're going to instill opportunity. And that is how we are going to come back. I know we can do this, but I know it won't be easy.
What do you want the listeners and the viewers to do? Give me 3 things from either of you or both of what you want our listeners to do.
Shannon, I'll let you go because I don't want to hog this.
Listen, I want all listeners, viewers to do their homework. I want them to do their own research. I want them to look at our past to see what we've done in our communities, what we've done across the state of Maryland, how we worked with our peers. I think that makes a difference. So I would say I will take the first one as do your research and vote.
Well, and I would, just to put a finer point on what Shannon just said, look at what people were doing when nobody was watching. I think that's really important. And look throughout their whole career. There are material differences in the candidates, and we have a lot of shared values, and I have we have respect for all the candidates, but there really are differences between the candidates. I mentioned one difference. Peter Franchot didn't support the blueprint, and you know what? If you don't support the blueprint, you're not going to implement the blueprint in the way it needs to be implemented. Peter Franchot said that offshore wind was a boondoggle and that it was an economic failure. Offshore wind is a ticket to the middle class. I have great respect for my friend Wes. And at the same time, we have a lot of differences as well. And I invite you to take a look at my entire body of experience and compare it with what Wes did, because there are some material differences, especially in the housing context. And we talked about that in the debate we had yesterday. For a 5-6 year period from 2006 or so to 2012, I was fighting Wall Street because Wall Street was bringing down Main Street, especially Black and brown people. And during that same time, he was working at Citibank. As an investment banker. There's nothing wrong with that. But Citibank was one of the worst offenders. And you know what? So many people were left behind as a result of the predatory practices of places like Citibank. I settled the 2 largest fair lending cases in the history of the Fair Housing Act. And one of them involved Wells Fargo. And when I personally settled that case. It was a national case. And the last thing I said is, we're not going to settle the national case until we settle 3 other cases where lawsuits were filed. 3 cities, Memphis, Chicago, and Baltimore. And I made them sit down, and I worked with them to settle all the cases so that we could help Black and brown homeowners in Baltimore. I really believe that housing is a right for all and not a privilege for a few. I use this by way of example because folks need to understand the differences in the candidates, because you got to ask the question, if what someone's going to do in the future, in my experience, what they've done in the past is a pretty good indicator. So again, I appreciate your question, and I agree with Shannon. Please do your homework. And please
bring me back.
Vote. And I hope you'll vote for us.
Well, I do have one more question that I did watch the Maryland Public Television debate the other day. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I really want you to respond to this, and I tried to get in touch with Kwaizi's office, but I couldn't today. There was a issue between the Congressional Black Caucus and your campaign office. What was that about, that they decided they were not going to support you at the time, or what happened with that Congressional Black Caucus?
That issue was when I was DNC chair, and the issue revolved around one issue primarily, and that was the issue of party reforms. You know what happened in 2016? We lost the election. Our party was in disarray, You know, we needed to rebuild our hope. We needed to rebuild our infrastructure, and we needed to rebuild trust within the party. You remember all the factions and all that.
Mhm.
And we came together. My colleague, Keith Ellison, who is a former member of Congress from Minnesota, now the Attorney General, who led the prosecution of the George Floyd case. Keith and I was the chair of the DNC. Keith was the deputy chair and also a member of the CBC. And we undertook superdelegate reform. I don't know if you remember, superdelegates were in place for like 30 years. And members of Congress and party officials like myself were superdelegates. And there was a strong sense within the grassroots of the party that superdelegates were corrosive. You know, why do these elites have all this power? And so we had a Unity Reform Commission, and we came together, and there was a strong majority that voted for superdelegate reform. We reduced the power of superdelegates. Now, quite frankly, there were some members of the Congressional Black Caucus, Marcia Fudge being one of them, you know, and there were a few others, and I respect their view on this. I just disagree with it.
Okay.
They said, you're taking away our power if you reduce the influence of superdelegates. That's empirically inaccurate, in my respectful opinion.
Why?
Let me just give you an example. Who do you think was the most important person in the 2020 election that led to the victory of Joe Biden in the primary?
I don't know.
If I were asked that question, I would say it was a guy named Jim Clyburn. Joe Biden was on life support. Joe Biden got killed in the New Hampshire primary. Joe Biden came in a distant second in Nevada. You know, they had the defibrillator out for him.
They still do. Oh, never mind.
And you know what? We got to South Carolina, and what happened? Jim Clyburn supported him. And when Jim Clyburn supported him, he won. Guess what, though? In 2020, Jim Clyburn was no longer a superdelegate. And the point I make to people is that you didn't have your power diminished. Your power doesn't derive from the fact that we gave you this title superdelegate and a cape that comes with it. Your power as a member of Congress, like Jim Clyburn, derives from the fact that you are a hero of the civil rights movement. Jim Clyburn should be treated in history on the same level as John Lewis.
No question.
And the other titans of the movement. That's why Jim Clyburn was so powerful. It wasn't because someone made him a superdelegate in the 70s. And the point was, and by the way, the majority of African Americans on the DNC, when we voted on superdelegate reform, voted for the position that we were advocating, the majority. But you know, there were some who were very vehemently opposed, and I respect that. But the superdelegate reform passed overwhelmingly. And by the way, it brought the party together. And it enabled us in 2020. We didn't have the rancor that we had in 2016. Because here's the deal. In 2016, the day before the Iowa caucus, nobody had voted. But Hillary already had 600 delegates to the convention. Why?
Right.
Superdelegates. So it created an impression that, well, this is over already, and nobody's voted. That was the concern that people had. By the way, Keith Ellison and myself and by the way, the other person who strongly supported this was Jamie Harrison, who's now the chair of the DNC, and a protege of Jim Clyburn, by the way. Jamie's from South Carolina. So that was and by the way, my friend Ben Jealous, who is a supporter of my friend Wes, was also a supporter of superdelegate reform and wrote a column in Time magazine. So that's what this was about. And I respect that there were certain members of the caucus that still had that feeling. But again, I would tell you, and I think the 2020 primary and Jim Clyburn's role is a pretty good. I don't think Black people lost their power in 2020. In fact, if it weren't for Black voters bringing us back, I don't think we would have won the White House. So thank God for Jim Clyburn. Thank God for Black voters in South Carolina.
That was huge, though.
You know, the heart and soul of the Democratic Party is black voters, black women in particular, and always have been, for my goodness, decades here. So, that was what was going on. And sometimes in jobs like the DNC, you got to make hard choices. If your goal when you take the job at the DNC is to increase your holiday card list, probably not the right job.
Well, I think that I asked the question because there are people who have quote unquote intel that you don't really know about. It's important for me to be able to ask
Yeah.
the question. And
Oh, I'm
I'd
glad you
rather,
did.
I'm a straight up no chaser kind of black woman. So I think it's really important. And I know that you all have something on the other side, but I want to thank you for taking your time. This was very informative. We've got notes inside the list here. People are commenting. But moreover, I want to wish you all the best in your quest for that seat. And I just want that man out of that seat. So get him out and go
Amen.
ahead and do what we need to do to make the state of Maryland, give it some equity and some real live management without all the BS. And so, and
Well,
it's
hey,
real.
well,
And
you
it's
use
real.
you used initials BS. We have another initial GSD. We're going to get some stuff done.
And I
Exactly.
like that
Nice
one.
word.
Yeah, exactly. We use the right word. Yeah, we use the nice word. By the way, we do use a different S word sometimes. But we're
Okay,
not
well,
gonna
we'll
use
have to talk
it right.
about that offline.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you all taking the time. And Sean was really great in making all this happen. So thank you very much. We wish you the best. And we hope that all of you viewers learn something. And if you have any questions, be sure to send them to me and I'll forward them on to Tom and Shannon. And we really appreciate you taking the time. Any last words, or we know how to get in touch with you. But thank you so much for your time. And we wish you the best of luck
Thank
in
you.
this election. And it's coming down soon.
Please get out there and vote, folks. People died for this right.
No
And
question.
we have so much work. We have so much stuff to get done. And let's get it done together.
Okay. Tom Perez and Shannon Snead, thank you both very much for joining us on WKIM. This is the end of our broadcast, and make certain that you share it. It's on YouTube, WKIM Media Network, and pass it around. So get out and do the voting. That we can't change anything that you heard today and anything that you know that you didn't hear unless we get out to vote, and we need to be intentional. Thank you. This is the end of our broadcast, and we'll see you next Tuesday. We have lots more to talk about. Take care. And thank you, Katanya Lester, our producer, who's making it all happen. Good night.